My name's Yolanda Lewis, host of Grown Men Real Talk. And today we're talking about whether or not you trust your husband. In your dream relationship, think about it. How much of yourself are you really giving to your mate? We're talking about that today on Grown Men Real Talk. Join us. Today we have some wonderful guests here on Grown Men Real Talk. We have Kimberly Morton-Powell and we have Patryce Faye-Little. Welcome, ladies, to Grown Men Real Talk.
Thank you.
You're
We're happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Okay, ladies, so let's talk. We are talking husbands, marriage, and relationships, and whether or not women really trust their mate in their relationship and the dangers they're in. So, a lot of times, women think that once they get married, that's it. Dream come true. Dream is over, matter of fact, because you have your dreamboat guy and you're ready to go rocking, sailing off into the stars. But as you and I both know, there is a lot of work to be had after that marriage ceremony exists. So what I want to ask you guys is, when is the first time that you really gave your husband your heart?
Well, for me, it was very early on. My husband and I, our relationship progressed very quickly.
Right.
And because we're both Libras and we tend to balance each other out as well as like things balanced around us. I think I gave my heart to him. First month of our relationship.
Wow. That's pretty interesting and very profound, because a lot of folks might say that that was early. But I think my husband and I, we built our relationship as well early on into the marriage, and fell in love we just, what they say, when it's the one, and you really do know when it's the one.
Definitely.
And I don't think you can put a time on that per se. So I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. Patryce, what about you? When is the first time you gave your husband your heart?
I would say that it was probably within 2 years of us dating. And it's when the first time we spoke, I knew, I'm like, this is definitely the guy. It sounds weird, but I knew it. But as time progressed and more interaction and certain types of experiences where I was able to see how he handled it, then he definitely won my heart over and my trust.
I love it.
And just with time, though, it's like it was parts of how do I say, like parts of pieces of trust, because it's hard to trust everything fully at the beginning. What eventually end up happening is, with time, even now as we're still growing, we've been married for 11 years. There's still areas where I feel the trust still needs more development. So, but there are areas where he's fabulous in, and there's areas, of course, that I have as well that needs improvement.
I love that you shared that. It was very transparent, because there's always work to be done in relationship. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, because that lifelong commitment is exactly that. It's a lifelong of growing together. It's a lifelong of building together and learning each other and learning how to trust one another as well. So I'll ask you ladies this: why do you think women have trouble or even consternation with really being able to give themselves and be at that vulnerable place where they're sharing their whole heart with their husband?
I believe it begins with self. I per se have a expertise in identifying that certain types of childhood dysfunction or that premature development, it interferes with how they're going to have relationships when they get older. So a lot of unresolved issues, whether they have issues with neglect from dad or abuse from mom or just any type of trauma, even if it was a childhood cancer, anything that's traumatic, it actually feeds over into how they view themselves. If they think they're beautiful, if they think of their selves as having any value. So it stems from that. And it actually takes time. That's one of the things that I feel as women, we're not even told that prior to getting married. There's no actual manual with that.
I would agree. What are your thoughts, Kimberly?
Well, it's really piggybacking off of what Patryce have already said, because it's really developmental. If you grow up guarded, you'll tend to be you'll be a guarded adult. And
absolutely,
even emotionally guarded. And trust is very key in giving your heart to someone, because you do have a lot of women that give their heart very easily.
Right.
And then find
Right.
themselves brokenhearted
Right.
very easily. So
Yeah.
because of that pain, resentment,
Right.
fear,
Right.
all of that sets
Right.
in
Right.
and makes it difficult for future relationships.
Right, right. And even like as I mentioned before, the depth of that vulnerability, because in being vulnerable with your husband and building that trust, you have to be able to recognize faults. You have to be able to recognize
Yes.
you may be fabulous and all of that, well, women power, all that's great, but there are things that you have to work on as well, and you have to be able and willing, not just able, but willing
Yeah.
to admit that and
Yes.
to bring yourself to a place that exposes that and then trust him with it. And I think too, as we as women give our hearts to our husband, they in turn feel that they can trust us as well, and give their heart to us, and that builds a relationship. Would you agree, disagree?
I'm happy you said that. That type of transparency. It's interesting that there are couples who they've been together for years, and we all know, we can think of that couple. While
Right.
I mention this right now,
Right.
where there's been so much secrecy as far as what the spouse have, whether the wife or what the husband has gone through as
Right.
far as any type of issues, and then it carries over into the marriage.
Right.
Whether it be issues with money, trusting with
Right.
money, where people have secret issues with gambling or
Right.
debt,
Right.
or just so. One thing that I've also wanted to mention is that sometimes when people hear the word trust, they automatically think about infidelity and not the different types, the other types of facets in the marriage. It could be money, it could be just how they care for the children. Do you trust them with the children if anything were to happen to you? And so it's
I
just
love
important that I mention that as
Yeah,
well.
I love that. And I love that you said money, because that's actually my next question. So with money, right? Okay, so it's a big thing now with women being, on the move and having their own businesses and successful in their own careers, having their own account. What are your thoughts on women having that, the little pretty kitty just for themselves?
I always have. My grandmother, of course, my grandmother was old school.
Yes.
She was a Southern woman.
Yes.
And very independent. And raised an independent woman who raised me.
Right.
And because of that, she always said, never go broke. Whether you guys have joint accounts, separate accounts, whatever works for the family dynamic is whatever it is. I
agree.
But as far as personally, always put something to the side. Save for a rainy day. Right. You never need to spend every single dollar.
Right.
And because of that, whether it's in a bank or whether it's tucked away somewhere, you just learn to just kind of put something over to the side. Right. And generationally, that's the one thing that my oldest daughter, did tell me. She's like, Mom, I definitely learned that from you. Yeah. I'm not broke. Right. And I don't like using the word personally for me. Right. Broke. Right. Because I'm never broke. Right. Even if I have change in my purse, I have money.
Got something.
Correct. Correct.
And so, but she always tells me, Mom, I learned that from you. Right. So if I say I can't do it, it's not because I don't have any money. Right. It's because I'm being wise with the money that I have. And I appreciate you teaching me that. And we don't, as people of color, we don't teach our children that not only does that money have value, but that actual money is a tool that can that can help you gain independence and actually make you feel a form of safety. Right.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Well
for
said.
yourself as a woman.
Correct.
I love that. And I love that you're passing that along to your daughters and your children, period. Because I think that's what builds generational wealth.
Yes.
And so I won't get too far off the topic, because that sounds like a good topic for another episode. But it's so true. And it's important that as women, we pass those gems along to our daughters.
Correct.
And if you don't have a daughter like myself, your nieces and the women around you who may not know.
And your sons.
Yes, and your sons. Absolutely. Absolutely. What are your thoughts?
Well, my husband has a term for it. He calls it my secret stash.
Okay.
He's like, you always have a secret stash if
Okay.
anything
My
were to
husband
happen.
says that, too.
Yeah, right.
And I concur with what Kim was saying, the exact same thing. I was raised the exact same way, just to always put money aside because you never know what's going to happen. Like my grandma would say, she would tell me, she was just like, you don't know, we're Jamaican. She's like, you don't know if he's going to up and leave one day. And she would say certain things just to be cautious, not per se because of that, but she would say, what happens if he takes sick? And I said, oh yeah, then I would make sure I'd be able to fend for myself.
Right.
So
I love your accent. I actually never heard that before. Totally loving it.
Never.
Yes, you just turned it on. Love it. Love it. It was great.
But yes, I definitely agree. As far as what Kim was saying.
Yeah. I think it's important too to understand that in trust and a relationship, it doesn't mean doormat. It doesn't mean you give all to where you have nothing. And I think a lot of times with women, we give so unselfishly that we forget about ourselves and that need to have something for you. Not just for a rainy day, but what about for a great sunny day? You want to take yourself on a trip, or you want to take yourself to the spa, or whatever. You don't need a man to validate that for you and do it for you. You can do it for yourself. So I love that you ladies shared on that, because I think that it's a very important concept of trust and a subset of trust that I think women miss. Yeah. So my final question in this regards is dreams. So when you have your dreams and big visions of your future, whether they be God-given dreams or just something you thought of, which I actually believe they're one and the same. But for purposes of this conversation, when you dream big, who is the first person you share it with?
My hubby.
Okay.
It's one of the things is, how like God, he gives us all things and we just get really excited. And sometimes it's hard to contain it, even though it's not about to manifest in the natural. Right. And you tell your spouse, just even with, I remember when I was writing my book, I would, every chapter, what do you think about this? Does this make sense? Does it flow? Does it? So basically I'd share it with him first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, because you did say biblically, you're supposed to write the vision and make it plain. So whatever it is that your vision is, you're supposed to write it down. It solidifies whatever that vision that you have for yourself is. The first person that I tell is my husband, and my husband is my best friend. Yes. And so because he's my best friend, we share everything.
Yeah. I just had to say that with you because I do too. Everything.
We share everything. Yeah. We laugh, we cry, we plan, we strategize. Yes. He knows when I'm frustrated about something that I'm trying to do and trying to accomplish. Yes. And so because of that, it's easy for us to share that information, and we share visions, and we share our dreams, and not only our dreams, individual dreams, but our dreams for our home, our dreams for businesses, our dreams for our community, and spiritual dreams. Yes. We share. And everybody may not do that. Right. And
should they? What value? Well, I agree, but what value does it add? Like, talk to me about the value that it adds in strengthening that trust in the relationship.
I think that they should. Yeah. And I feel as though that if you have that trust, it helps build the trust. Yes. Yes. Because when you can trust something, when you can trust someone with something so precious as a dream, because you can't tell everybody your dream.
No, you cannot.
No, you cannot.
You tell people your dreams, and now it's their dream.
Right. That's right. That's right.
And if you can share your dream with someone that you love,
correct,
and especially if that's your spouse, right? You share that dream with them, and you know it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Correct.
And you should, to me, because you guys are one, it helps strengthen that bond. That if you guys can actually share that actual information with each other, for me, it helps strengthen the bond, and it helps bring you closer. Right. And if, my opinion, if you're ever in a position where you can't trust your spouse with even your dreams, that's
danger
not a
zone.
good relationship.
No, danger zone.
Yeah.
Danger zone.
And it goes back to like you said in the beginning of trust.
Yes.
Correct.
And it's probably something that's either generational, behavioral, and you have to check yourself.
That's right. That's right.
It's not always the person,
That's
and
right.
if it is that other person,
right.
then you still got to check yourself.
I love that you said that. I love that you said that. So, final question. I said that already, but I'm going to say it again. So, real final question. Okay. I want you to give one tip because that was actually one I wanted to mention, that in figuring out why you don't have that trust as a new wife or even a wife that's seasoned in number. You've been with the man a long time, but you still don't have some trust, or some of those areas may be empty with trust. Figuring out the reason why, and really being open to looking at the fact that it may not be him, it may be you. And some of the things that you have going on in your past, or the way you were brought up, that you've never thought of before in context to whatever situation is present relative to the trust issue. So give me one additional pointer that you can give to the ladies in terms of how to look for, be aware of, find out, figure out trust and building that trust in their marriage. Either lady can go first.
Would you like to? I believe that you are who you attract. If you're insecure, then you're probably going to attract someone who's insecure. If you have issues with trust, then you may attract someone that has issues with trust.
Sure.
And that's the reason why I say you have to check yourself.
Right.
You have to do that research within yourself, because if that person is hard to trust, then you need to check yourself to figure out, why are you with someone that you can't trust?
Right.
Why was that a go-to?
Right.
Why was that desirable?
Right.
And you may have to do some readjusting. And if that's the area in your relationship that is the problem, then y'all need to work on it individually, and then collectively.
Yes.
Because you got to fix yourself first.
You do.
And then y'all can work on.
Okay, you preaching now. Go ahead now. Okay.
The unit.
Can I get some?
Okay.
Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Patryce.
Hallelujah.
All right. Okay, Patryce.
So,
what your one pointer?
Okay. Well, my one pointer kind of breaks down into three. I believe there's like that one recipe, but it involves three things. Definitely have to have God. You got to have him first. You have to be able to communicate with each other. And then you also have to be able to practice this fruit of the Spirit. And I say that because I've been practicing it for a minute now. And I'm pretty sure we all been tested in that with our marriage. We get the God thing down. We get the communication down. But practicing all the fruits. I think a marriage is one of the only relationships where you actually have to practice like just about everything. Just think about it. The relationships with your coworkers, the relationships with your family members. Some of them you can just practice patience. But with your husband, you're going to have to practice that kindness when you don't want to be kind. That long suffering when you just don't want to be there sometimes. So that's why I just feel that there's that one recipe to give that one point with that one recipe. And of course, God, because he is the foundation of everything. You submit to him, and then he will definitely
you said the
order your
steps.
Too. Okay. And then communication, constant. Keep it going, no matter what's going on, and then continue to bear that fruit. And it all, of course, end up falling under God, but.
Ladies, I had a wonderful time chatting with you today. Thank you so much for being a part of Grown and Real Talk.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for having us.
Now, if someone wants to reach you and find out more about what you do, how can they get in contact with you?
So I'm Patryce Faye, author, speaker, family nurse practitioner, and here's my book, Out of Crazy Born Genius, and it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, as well as booksamillion.com. And you can find me on Facebook as Patryce Faye. Twitter is Patryce Faye at Patryce Faye FNP. Periscope, Patryce Faye at Crazy Born Genius, and Instagram, Patryce Faye FNP.
Awesome.
And I'm Kimberly Morton-Powell. My website is www.kimberlymortonpowell.com. I can be found on Facebook, Kimberly Morton-Powell, as well as Instagram and Twitter at more_Kimmy, KIMMIE. Also, I'm a singer.
I have an excellent, I think it's
excellent. I can vouch for that. Excellent.
Single that's out right now called Just Praise, as well as my other single that I released on last year, which is called Holy. And you can buy that on any digital music download site. You can go to Amazon, Google Play, iTunes, or Spotify, anywhere you can find it.
Yes, awesome.
Oh,
awesome.